welcome to They Think It's All Sober. I'm a little bit starstruck.
Me too.
I've got to be honest. We have bigged up this product because we genuinely love it so much for the last 6 months.
Yep.
And we have here the founder and creator of Lucky Saint, Sir Luke.
Now I'm nervous.
No, mate, thank you.
It's like the most terrifying build-up.
Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you?
Thanks for all this, and thanks for all the support over the
mate,
many weeks and
That's
months
our
and
pleasure.
years.
it's our pleasure. It's funny because we do get, we were just saying before, but the amount of our listeners that have embraced the brand recently is just amazing. And because it's an amazing product, and obviously there's a whole array of good zeros out there and 0.5s, and we're vocal about numerous ones, but I think we can both speak very openly that yours in particular has just made a real impact on us and our journey, and having it in so many places on draft now, it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. So thank you.
No, I sort of, I guess I never considered impact. I don't stop and think about impact. So it's very it's very real to sit here with you and when you're saying that, and I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah,
it's kind of often we're just we're moving too fast and loads of stuff is happening. You don't we don't stop to think about the positive impact that we can make.
Yeah, but that's it as well, isn't it? It's not only is the brand growing and obviously business, which is great. I genuinely think it's making a huge difference, and the market in general is growing, which is amazing. And just looking at the figures, someone from your office kindly sent me, actually, I think it was Josh, the report that was saying that zero sales had gone up. Was it 50% from Jan to, I'm quoting random figures, but it was it had gone up drastically.
Yeah, I think it was probably. So in June this year,
yes, that was it.
More people were drinking. There was more alcohol-free consumed in June than there was in dry January.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah, because there's traditionally you've always had this massive spike for dry January,
And tail off.
and then it kind of comes back down again, and you get this build. But the fact that there were more people drinking alcohol-free in June than January was
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I mean, it's why we started the podcast. Really, was to
In June, it was all down to us.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I think part of the reason we started the podcast is we found that this was never a podcast about full on sobriety, go sober or don't listen or any of that stuff. It was about trying to talk about two guys in their 30s who have probably just overcooked it from when we've been teens, been in the music industry, and tried to have a very honest, open conversation about it. And actually, it turns out there's a hell of a lot of other people that are sort of going through a very similar thing, going, shit, I'm suddenly mid-30s and I think I'm probably drinking too much, and is there life beyond drink? And I think the zero beer market for me certainly was very limited from whenever I've had it before. I'm not going to start berating the brand that I always do.
I know, I was going to do this. Isn't the podcast for that.
This isn't the podcast for that. But it's been very limited, and to the point where you're just well, what's the point? It doesn't give me any kind of placebo or satisfaction. And, and I think this, what you've done with Lucky Saint has created something that has actually done that. And for someone that loved to drink, loved to party, having something like this is really, really refreshing.
Yeah.
And like we say, whenever I sit on draft, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
What was your sort of journey to? Was it a sort of self-realization and then an easy journey to sobriety?
Yeah, I mean, for both myself and Jamie, sort of similar conclusions. Both of us didn't have to go through recovery or 12-step, which is great and it's there for a lot of people and does a world of good. But we were able to stop. And my thing was that when I stopped, I was like, I don't want to not do anything because I've stopped drinking. I want to continue to be a socialite. And due to the nature of my work, I'm constantly out or doing shows or producing and, doing events. And, I couldn't suddenly become a hermit. So my drinking habits haven't actually changed. I will go and still have 12, 13 of these on a night out.
Yeah, God.
And I'm buying, and a lot of the time we talk about it as well, when it's not on draft and only 330s available, I'll be buying 2 and doing the pint glass thing.
We need to get you guys on draft everywhere because it becomes an expensive drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's dive a little bit into you, because you did that thing there where I could tell you didn't want to talk, so you just flipped it back on us.
Well, no, I'm but genuinely interested where, this is the ease. I'm I don't know, when I in 2018, I was in the process of setting up Lucky Saint, and I got to find out I was just about to like finish work and sort of like step into the unknown, and that was Jan 2018. So I thought, I'll try January.
Right.
That was the start, and then I got that was actually kind of like quite enjoyed that, and then I thought, I'll do 3 months, and then I thought I'll do a year. And so it was a kind of like I took it in increments, and then by the time you get to a year, you figure out that I figured out that I'd done festivals, weddings, nights in, nights out. Like you've sort of covered off everything by that stage, and you've kind of developed a lot of the, I was thinking like coping mechanisms for like different scenarios. And at that point, it sort of becomes much easier. But I always think if I set out with like a manageable goal, and then you just keep extending it. And then
we talk about that a lot, because I don't think we've spoken to anyone yet, maybe apart from Abby just now, who'd kind of had a forever attitude from the beginning. I think you said you were going to do 100 days.
I was going to do 100 days because I thought I'd done quite a few dry Januaries, and I knew that doing 30 days off drink was possible because I'd done it before, but I'd never done more. So I was like, I'm going to do 100 and then see how I feel. And then day 100 came around, and I went, starting to feel good in a way, and then kept going. And then the next milestone was 6 months, and then 200 days, 300 days, a year. And so mine was in increments. Yours was very much a little bit different.
I did 30 days, and then my life had changed. So I just felt like a whole new human. Felt like just this entire layer of skin had been shed. So after the 30 days, I was very much like, this is me now.
Yeah.
But we talk about it a lot, because I think the whole point of us talking about this as well, it is about moderation. So I think we were both a bit like 4 beers would turn into 15 beers, and then you'd be out until 4 a.m. And in our jobs, it just felt quite cyclical.
Yeah.
But there are some people that can moderate, and I think that's something that we're obviously very keen to talk about. And I think with brands like yourself, you can introduce something like this as part of a healthy drinking relationship. It might be that your weekday beers become, 0s or 0.5s, or it might be that, on a night out, it's 1 and 1. It doesn't have to be like full abstinence, but it's just maybe just seeing the function of alcohol in your life and what it does for you, and does it bring positives? Can it bring positives without negatives, and how that balance? I guess it's just like on the scales, right?
Yeah, you definitely learn a lot when you're not drinking for a prolonged period of time, whether that's 30 days, 100 days, a year. You just it becomes really insightful around like your own relationship, the bits that you do like about it, the bits you don't like about it, and you can you become detached. The social norms around drinking are just like so ingrained.
Yeah,
we have fun enough. We have a presentation that I've sent out like probably thousands of times to like different people. The opening slide is like human beings have spent thousands of years building social occasions around alcohol, from like the festivals of drunkenness in Egypt to raising a glass of champagne for like a birthday celebration. That's how we celebrate. So it's so ingrained in us. And the bit sort of I go on to is the bit that really excites me continually is the fact that in a really short period of time, I think society's relationship with alcohol is going to change completely. So we can like detach those two things. Yeah, and it's already happening over. I mean, like I say, it's been for 5 years, but the difference today, in terms of our attitude socially to where we were even 5 years ago, is transformed.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about this quite a lot. Because at first, when we went sober, we're of a similar age, and a few of our friends did at the same time. So I was like, it must be a kind of hit mid-30s and go, can't do this anymore. But actually, looking at research and talking to some of the festivals that we work with, there's actually a lot of evidence to say that society as a whole's relationship with alcohol is drastically changing. And I think that can only be a positive thing. And I wouldn't say that alcohol is the root of all evil, obviously, but I think in terms of, if people can readdress the balance, and I can safely say in my life, 99% of the things I haven't enjoyed have been through alcohol. So I think if people can start to have a healthy balance, it's only going to benefit society as a whole.
I think what you said as well about the presentation you're sending out about how alcohol's been ingrained in society for so long, we also discussed that as well, that we are conditioned as humans to, when something good happens, to celebrate with alcohol. And certainly in our line of work as well. I mean, I've had like a few years of music of, you know, having reasonable success where you have like a top 10 record, or you have a number one, or you have like a nomination for something. And the instant thing was to be champagne, pub, booze, like let's fucking go. And I was kind of a little bit scared when I was like thinking about, shit, I'm not going to drink anymore. Like, what are you going to do? And actually to have the replacement, you know, to still be able to do that. Because I think more than anything, what I really enjoyed about drinking, turns out it wasn't the drink, it was just the social.
Yeah.
And now to be able to still have that and actually be able to go out, have a zero, you know, spend time with friends, go to football, have a night out, have a dinner. Nothing's changed. So it's great. You know, I was like, fuck me, there is a world beyond alcohol, which has been really, really refreshing. So shall we go back a little bit in time?
Let's go a little bit into the...
Yeah, because what I'd love to do is I'd love to get kind of a bit of an insight into, like, you know, as the sort of founder of one of our favourite brands, like how your relationship with alcohol a little bit from when you were growing up to the point of deciding to start Lucky Saint, and we'll just do a little bit of a timeline. So
I feel like every time we say Lucky Saint, we need some kind of like angel noise.
We'll get that suited. Yeah, we can get that sorted out. So Jamie, time machine, please. There we go. We're back. So young Luke, early drinking days. What did alcohol look like when you were growing up?
I don't know, when you mentioned this just before, I was like thinking back to my first. I mean, look, I grew up in a family with I'd say like a pretty healthy relationship with alcohol, actually.
Cool.
My mum drinks, but like not a lot, never to excess. My dad drinks more and like consistently, but never seen him drunk.
Yeah,
like he's one of those people who have for decades has probably like drunk the same amount on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah.
But kind of like quite controlled, quite routine.
Nice.
So, but is that healthy? I don't know. That's probably a different debate.
Yeah,
but I certainly I grew up. My sort of earliest memories of drinking are probably drinking cans of cider as like a 12-year-old at home before Sunday lunch.
Okay.
And I remember it was Red Rock cider, I think. It's like one of the Taunton cider brands, and it must have been like 6%, and it was in a 440ml can.
Right.
Jeez.
And have a can like literally like midday on a Sunday as a 12-year-old. I always used to walk through the line and be like, I'm really lightheaded.
Yeah. What's this feeling?
And then, as I don't know, as a teenager, I guess all of the standard stuff, like age 14, scamming my way into pubs, and I remember when pints were £2.80, and
God, I remember those
they were
days.
The days.
Playing pool, smoking fags, and drinking as passing the afternoons drinking.
Yeah. Whereabouts did you grow up?
So I grew up in London.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And then, and then I I went to university. You obviously drink a lot at university.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I kind of remember never loving it. It was kind of like the norm. I mean, literally, it's 5 nights a week is you're out, and that was the norm, and I was like 100% lent into that.
Yeah.
But also kind of remembered, not necessarily loving it.
Yeah.
Probably not knowing why, but also not having the, the sort of the strength of character, or like the self-assurance to be like, actually, no, like it's not for me.
Yeah.
And then I guess like post-uni, I came back to London, and started work, and always had like fairly traditional like relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
Probably class it as, in some ways, I've never not really like drunk at home a lot, but always drunk when I go out.
Yeah.
And then I was sort of saying 2018 I thought I wonder what it'd be like to do dry January, and then I have did a month, and then 3 months, and then a year, and I guess that was now nearly 6 years ago. But the one thing I always said was like there was never any rules.
Yeah.
So I always positioned it for myself and my own, like I wasn't gonna, if I had a drink, then that didn't constitute failure or anything like that. It was like I'd much rather celebrate all the drinks I haven't had rather than the one that I did.
Yeah.
And actually over time I probably didn't drink at all, probably 4 years. Last couple of years, the thing that's really driven it actually is that sometimes I'll have a drink and it'll always be like the lowest possible ABV I can find.
Yeah.
So if there isn't a good alcohol-free beer in a pub, then I'll have like a bitter shandy.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it's always the way I've approached it. Yeah, now the sort of the idea of hangovers and stuff like that, I kind of like can't really compute it.
Yeah. Well, I think you're in a place where a lot of us would love to be, which sounds like you can have a very, very healthy, moderate relationship with it, and sort of take it or leave it by the sounds of it. And it also sounds like, I guess, your relationship growing up with alcohol was a very typical one of, the cider in parks and the going to uni and getting involved, and then it's sort of dropping off in line with probably work and everything else. So it's nice to know that people like you exist.
We haven't had many in that chair. That's for sure.
It's kind of, I don't know what like the I don't know. I wonder if uni's the same now as it was 20 years ago. I remember I went to uni in Newcastle, and the typical promotion, I think it was on a Monday night, was like 3 triples for a £5.
Wow.
And it's just it's just wild.
I remember I went to uni in High Wycombe, and there was a place called the Lytton Tree, and it was £1 a drink on Tuesday, and that was £1 of double vodka Red Bull. And it's difficult. We speak about this a lot because I identify with what you said about not enjoying drinking. It's not really one point I've ever enjoyed like drinking, even when I used to go out and get really messed up. And uni in particular, because it just felt like you didn't, I was like, because you struggle to put a term on it, and I agree. It's like, is it maturity? Is it strength? Is it just that you fall into it? I wonder how many other people there are that maybe didn't feel like they had that, and I'm wondering whether now, because social media is so prevalent, because it didn't exist when I was at university, but maybe people can find common ground, whether it's even stuff like we're doing or all the amazing pages out there that go, well, actually, maybe I don't need to drink, and young people now can find the gym or be healthy. But for me, there was no other option other than to just I don't think I knew a single person at university who didn't drink, whereas now most people I know that are 18, 19 don't really drink at all.
Yeah. It's interesting because my stepdaughter Leah is 17, about to turn 18, and she's in her phase of, drinking and experiencing alcohol for the same time. But her and her friendship group don't seem to be getting anywhere near as like reccoed as I was with
mortal, as they used to say.
Like, sure, like they're going to parties and she's asking to, get like Malibu and like that kind of stuff, or the tequila rosé. I think is like now the drink of choice for the kids, because it's like a sweet introduction to alcohol. And I think she had one hangover, and she rang me. I'm not gonna grass her up, but she rang me and was like, I'm really hungover, what do I do? I've got work. And I was like, you go to work. I was like, you've made your bed, you lie in it. She's like, but I can't, I'm being sick. And I'm like, trust me, this is what you need to do. Go and get some toast, do this, like give some advice. But like, apart from that, I think like they seem to have a much more like respectful kind of relationship with alcohol. And it's not like the motive for the night out. It's like they just want to go and hang with their mates, and cool, they have a couple of drinks. Whereas we were like, let's go and get fucking shit-faced. Like,
it was like
uni was kind of a night out sort of probably wasn't complete if you remembered the end of it.
Especially in Newcastle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like so I think in terms of like going into the inception of the company, so you are now 5 years in, so congrats. That's a big milestone for any company, especially one that's excelling. But what was talk us through like the inception of the brand? Like, where did the ideas come from? What was the MO?
So what was MO stand for?
Like what is it?
Modus operandi.
Okay. Yeah. So started in 2016. Well, maybe worth like going back a little bit before.
Sure.
So I always think I'm like there's two parts to me, like professionally. So I grew up in a family full of people who all worked in advertising.
Right.
So that's kind of, as I grew up, that was always what I was going to do, because
Right.
it was all I knew. And then I spent all of my summer holidays working as a runner on shoots and in production companies, and
Sure.
like loved all of that stuff. And then ended up, for one reason or another, so I got some work experience in a fund management company, like, which is totally the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
And then at the end of 3 months got offered a job, and so I sort of stayed, and so I sort of fell into a different industry that I never loved and was never very passionate about. It's really hard to be good at something you don't love and you're not passionate about.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess that went on for a few different roles in a few different companies, but I ended up working for a Belgian entrepreneur, kind of looking at businesses for him. And during that time I met two founders of a technology business, and this was like a concept stage, two guys, concept stage idea. They were looking for, like, they were trying to raise money for it. And I met them, and I remember sitting across the table from them, and they were literally bursting with excitement and enthusiasm. They had so much belief in what they were doing. And I couldn't believe there was a professional world out there where you could be that passionate about what you were doing. It blew my mind. And so within literally 10 minutes of meeting them in this meeting, in my head I was just going like, I want to be on that side of the table. It looks way more fun than anything I've ever done. And I guess a few ideas came and went, but the idea I could never shake off was this idea of reinventing alcohol-free beer, because it was this dusty old category. Everyone hated it. Like, it was the sort of thing you'd apologize if you ordered it at the bar. And the kind of like going back to the sort of like creative part of me, and sort of like having always, not knowingly, but probably like always been like brand conscious and like interested in brands without sort of actively doing anything about it, was always like, I wonder if it'd be possible to build a brand that would make people feel positive about the category. And because it was like, people would say it was basically a distressed purchase.
I agree. Without naming any brands, I know exactly what you mean.
So we never name any brands.
Very dusty in the fridge in the corner of the pub. And you go and get it out and be like,
so that was the start point. It was kind of like, would it be possible to brew a beer that's like good enough to bring me into the category, and then is it possible to build a brand that will make people feel positive about that? That's where it all, a little bit naively, I then kind of just started trying to reach out to anyone who would listen, about like who worked in drinks or even better in beer and brewing, and trying to find someone to help me brew a beer.
amazing.
And
where did that lead you?
Where I ended up spending like the next 2 years. Over the course of 2 years, I worked properly with 6 different breweries.
Wow.
In 3 different countries.
Had you quit your job at this point?
No.
Right.
So this was kind of like, it was
side
hustle.
yeah.
Cool. Which incidentally, if like anyone's ever going to set up a business, that kind of, the longer you can go on, like bluntly, on someone else's dime, the better.
Yeah.
Because it is, this stuff always takes longer than you think.
Yeah,
you
of course.
think like, I think I'll be ready to go in 6 months, and then like 2 years later, it still feels, because even funny enough, when I did quit my job in Jan 2018, which was basically the best part of 2 years in. thinking, oh well, like I'm 3 months away from launch,
Ready to launch, yeah.
October.
Wow.
In reality, so it felt like, honestly, that year felt like I was always 3 years from launch, 3 months from launch. Rather.
Right.
It just kind of, you just all this, because you've never done it before, you just don't realize how much there is to do, and you're like, oh damn, I need a website, and I needed it.
Yeah, especially coming into a space that was like, probably at the time, I mean, obviously we know the amount of options and stuff that are available now, but I suppose at the time, like, fairly limited. What you were doing was probably quite new, and must have been a lot of like hoops and things to sort out and jump through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing was like I wasn't like the startup community and like infrastructure to start businesses is amazing now. I think if you were trying to do this stuff 20 years ago, you didn't, like, Shopify didn't exist, and social media didn't, like, actually, and like amazing kind of communities, and this path has been like well trodden by lots of people.
Yeah.
So you definitely, that's definitely a huge benefit. But yeah, I guess it's kind of the fun. You always look back and you're like, well, if I did it again, I could definitely do it in half the time.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way. That's the fun of the journey that you go on, and the bit of learning that I think is intrinsically really interesting about starting a business. It's like, it is learning and figuring stuff out.
I was going to ask, what came first, the beer or the brand? Like the taste or the
So the beer definitely came. I figured out, hopefully rightly, that there was no point having a brand if there wasn't a beer, like, because it always had to be around product and the quality of the beer. It was always about lager, and trying to, because lager is just this amazing, accessible drink. I don't know how much you know, like, probably do a whole podcast on it, but the lager as we know it, which is like pale in colour and it's dry and refreshing and crisp, like what we think of as like modern lagers, actually it's only been around for 200 years.
Right, okay.
So it started in a place called Pilsen in Czech Republic, at what's known as the Pilsner Urquell brewery, and before that moment, when they brewed the very first Pilsner lager, had been dark, smoky, bittersweet, and then through a bunch of like innovations in brewing, they took a different type of malt and some German brewing practices, and they brewed this beer, and it's essentially informed like 80% or more of the beer that we drink today.
Wow.
Is all informed by that Pilsner that was first brewed in 1842.
That's amazing.
So it's got this, like, lager's just this kind of amazing drink. It's so accessible. It's like crisp, like done well. I was in Germany this week, and the like quality and passion that like they have for lager brewing over there is just incredible. So yeah, it was always about the product first, and then once I had enough confidence that we were going to get there on that, and it took quite a long time, then the brand came after that.
Nice.
Interesting. So I mean, I think like it's interesting you say that you had your sort of family background in advertising, because I think the lucky saying advertising has almost been like a talking point of how well it's like being executed, and I think the actual name as well, it's definitely got, you're doing what you set out to do, I think, which is not many people can say they can do. So
it's been well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been, I don't know, I'm kind of, I guess, driven by like wanting to create something that is, I don't know, ultimately would love to build an iconic brand. That's like shoot for the stars. And I've always always loved investing in creative and trying to shoot amazing photography, and that's always
because I see that, was it Rankin did your shots? Did I read that somewhere?
Yeah, I had like amazing have lots of help. So one of our guy Ben Bilber, who sits on our board, actually, he was involved from the word go. He ran an agency called Karmarama,
Right.
and he very generously said, it was just after we launched and we had a bottle, and a bit, the brand didn't really kind of exist, or like there was nothing like beyond that. So he very generously said, well, look, Luke, come in with with the team as it was at that point. And he put he put like a creative director, a strategy director. He put like 5 amazing people from Karmarama in the room as a sort of brainstorming exercise. And one of the ideas that came out of that kind of exploration was it would be cool to do a photography all based on no budget, incidentally. It'd be cool to do some sort of like campaign around unexpected lucky saints. Like whatever that would be. And the idea that rose to the top was an idea of a nun drinking our beer.
Yeah.
And we had like no budget to do anything, but Karmarama put the brief on Rankin's desk and was like, look, like, we love this idea. We don't really have any money for it. He came back and he said, I'm free next Thursday afternoon.
Wow.
What a result.
So yeah, it was a like massive coup.
That's amazing.
And then he shot this image that's remained with us ever since.
Yeah.
And, free is never free in reality, but
I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it in the tube,
Certain
man.
stipulations, I'm sure, came with that. But
I remember seeing it in the tube. It's before I'd really connected with the brand, so it stuck with you. It sticks with you. It's striking.
So yeah, it was originally shot in 2018, and then it kind of we came back this in 2023. We did the full like dry Jan campaign with it. So
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that image, and it's ended up kind of informing like the rest of the brand world in a sense. So there's sort of little like hints of kind of religious iconography and the like color palette and stuff.
I'm sure treading the line of religious iconography without offending anyone, right?
Yeah, no, and we're really kind of really conscious of they're definitely not here to offend anyone. And
No, of course.
If anything that we do and if we did anything along those lines, we don't want to use it as a way of like getting headlines. Love we sort of think about like the sort of just needs to do just enough to kind of just make the corner of someone's mouth just turn up. That's the sort of right level of like the balance of trying to shoot for.
Nice. I'm just going to open a can.
Yeah, of course.
There you go. Crisp. It's like that Diet Coke advert from Wimbledon years ago.
Very nice. And I think it's like one of the things and the reasons why I kind of go to this as well is like certainly since I stopped drinking, I think there's been like a big fitness aspect, which a lot of people, you naturally by default have more time, especially if you were a big drinker. And we always say it's almost like another day frees up in the week. But a lot of people replace drinking with fitness. So, you do a lot of running. I started, gym training a lot more. And luckily these kind of compute, I suppose, from the very little sugar that's in them as well, which is, when I go there now, I'm like, yes. Because, you have some where you go and they're full of sugar to obviously counteract the fact there's no alcohol. And I imagine it's part of the brewing process. And, that some people haven't been able to, or they might not care. They're just like, I want to get the taste like this. And I suppose that's one of the good things with this. I feel consciously when I'm drinking, I'm like, it's got very little sugar in, so this is good and it's less calories. So.
I'd love to know about that brewing process actually, because we went to visit a brewery, didn't we, on Tuesday?
And
it was fascinating because we just got invited down and we were really intrigued. So I'd love to hear about how you eventually came up with this amazing taste.
Yeah, it's worth maybe just like I remember sending off the like test samples to do nutritionals for the back label that you have to put on the back label, and getting them back and being like, this is amazing, because it was never developed it with nutritionals in mind.
Oh really? Wow.
it wasn't like we had like a target on what the sugar level should be or anything, what the calories should be. It was all just driven by taste. I mean, one of the things that I've always found that like it shouldn't be overly sweet. So one of the things was to kind of consciously have like a sort of dry, like a dry beer. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember when they came back, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. It's got like no sugar in it, less calories than orange juice.
Perfect. Yeah.
So a brewing process.
Yeah.
So
obviously, without giving away any secrets.
No, like I always think it kind of comes back to, I remember reading this book, funny, around like the origins of lager and Pilsner, and reading that story. And I remember there's a guy called Mark Dredge who wrote a book called A Short History of Lager. Mm-hmm. It's not very short. If you're into beer, it's like it's fascinating. And there's a moment where he describes going down into the ice cellars underneath Pilsner Urquell Brewery and being handed a stein, like a small, like kind of little mini, like Stein glass. And he describes this straw-coloured liquid, hazy, because it's unfiltered, and then with a perfect white cap of froth on it, and saying like this is like the ultimate kind of beer drinking experience. And literally, I remember reading it, and the hairs on the back of my neck were like standing on end, because it was when I realised that the way we brew Lucky Saint is the same way that they brewed that original Pilsner back in 1842. It's like it's Pilsner malt. It takes 6 weeks to brew. It's like 2 weeks of fermentation and then 4 weeks of lagering, which is to lager is to store.
Right. Okay.
Right.
And they used to store it, back then they'd store it in ice cellars at 1 degree.
Right.
And that's the like conditioning time when kind of all of the magic happens, and the beer goes, I guess, becomes like balanced, and lots of the kind of off flavors gets kind of cleared up like naturally through this conditioning process. So I always think of it as like we brew it in exactly the same way as the very, very best.
OG.
Yeah. I love that.
And then we remove the alcohol at the end of that 6-week process.
Right.
How is that done? I always, when people say about removing the alcohol, I'm just always intrigued by the science of that. So there's someone there with a straw, like when you siphon petrol.
Yeah.
Not that I've done that, FYI.
So it's a process called vacuum distillation. There's a few processes. There's because the process we use is called vacuum distillation. And if you imagine, I always explain it, so alcohol evaporates at I think 78 degrees C, centigrade, Celsius. Whatever C stands for. Water evaporates at 100 degrees. So if you heat beer up to 78 degrees, the alcohol will evaporate off, but the water will stay in it.
Right.
Wow.
But if you heat a beer up to 78 degrees, like it's not going to taste very good, because you've just basically cooked it.
Yeah.
Spent 6 weeks,
carefully
holding the temperature at like fermentation temperature, and
Yeah.
then you've held it at 1 degree, and then you just cook it. But if you change the atmospheric pressure around something, it changes the evaporation point.
Right.
So if you go to the mountains and you boil the kettle at altitude, it boils at 90 degrees, not 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because the pressure is lower. The air pressure is lower. So if you turbocharge that, so you put it in a really strong vacuum, you can lower the evaporation point to body temperature, effectively.
Wow. So you don't ruin the beer,
So
basically.
you don't ruin the beer.
Okay. Interesting. A bit of science.
That's what we need on this podcast, man.
Yeah, it's
Some
good.
science.
Yeah, I've always wondered, because I've known there's been like 2 processes, and there's like you can do it without the alcohol to start with, or you take it off at the end.
Yeah.
So that answers that question.
Is that the difference between a 0 and a 0.5? Is that because I know they're changing it now, right, aren't they? So everything under 0.5 will be considered zero proof. But could you call that 0? Like, is it just a brand choice on what they do? Not you, just in general with zeros.
So got lots in there.
Sorry.
Yes. So the government's recently launched a consultation on doing exactly that, like clearing up, I guess, lack of clarity around what's alcohol free, what's low alcohol. We have active decision to have the beer is like less than 0.5% ABV. I've always thought like the most important thing is to bring people into the category. You've got to do it because the beer tastes great.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that should be, for me, was like always the overriding, overriding the important thing. So, yeah. What was your question again?
I guess I was just intrigued as to whether, because we were talking about the process. So some zeros remove the alcohol, some never have alcohol in them in the first place. And is that the difference between a 0% and a 0.5?
Yeah. So,
or is it a brand choice?
If you if you brew to a low alcohol, so the alcohol in beer comes from fermenting the sugar, and the sugar came from the malted barley.
Right.
So if you wanted to have the more malted barley you put in, the more sugar, the higher the ABV will be.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reverse is true. So if you put a really small amount of malt in, that will have a small amount of fermentable sugar, and therefore will end up with a really low ABV. You can't get that process. You can't get that to zero because you have to have some malted barley in there.
Right.
So that's that one. You can get to zero from using the process that we use, but we choose not to for reasons of flavor and
Got you.
creating like the best tasting product.
Sure.
Nice. And it's bloody good it does taste.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like, I think we've debunked, and there's been a lot of, research into other everyday objects that have more alcohol in than a 0.5, including like the bananas and brioche buns and the rest of it. So
1.23% ABV.
Yeah, and there's loads in like kombucha, and ginger beer is brewed.
Yeah. So it's very, very minimal, isn't it? But I think there's, for the majority of our audience embrace zeros. There's a few people that have gone through a recovery process that can't have anything that tastes like alcohol, which is completely fair enough. And, will choose on a night out to have like a Diet Coke or whatever it is. And, but I think for most people that are welcoming of zeros, I think there's just a general understanding that a 0.0 or a 0.5 is cool. So,
yeah.
Let's talk about draft, because walking into a pub and seeing Lucky Saint on draft is honestly like Tom and I's holy grail. Like, there'd be probably, if you look through our media on our phones, there's probably about 45 messages of us in different pubs around the country.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong, but yours definitely seems to be the leading draft, and I've seen it in more places than ever. What was the decision to take it to draft, and has there been any challenges with that? And I guess just would love to hear more about that process.
Oh, I remember in 2019 the kind of conversation around like, wouldn't it be cool if like alcohol-free beer was on draft? Because it's our society in the UK and the pub is just it's like the pint is, that's how we drink beer,
It's
right?
like the holy grail.
Yeah. And there was always lots of, I guess I'd ask lots of questions of, we'd only just launched as a brand, and I was always like trying to figure out what the answer would be, and would it be possible, B, would enough people buy it? And the general consensus was that there's not going to be enough people. It's hard, and like there's only 10 taps in a pub, right?
Yeah.
Like trying to win one of those taps is really hard, but then there aren't enough people who are going to want to drink it. So kind of like ended up sort of, the idea just sort of remained on ice until literally the last minute at the end of 2019, and we thought, well, if there's a moment to try this, it's got to be for dry January.
Yeah.
So in about, I think it was like November, we started scrambling, and we scrambled hard. And actually had like an amazing month in the end. We I remember so clearly putting the post up on Instagram, and the response that we got and the comments was like, "This is amazing," and it was incredible. And we originally launched it in 50 venues, which in its own right was like quite an amazing achievement to win 50 taps from a get-go for a 1-year-old brand. And then we had I thought we'd ordered 3 months stock, and it was gone in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so it was the response was amazing, and then it was kind of, I remember it was like, great, let's, we should be
onto something.
This is great. And then COVID came, and everything stopped for a while.
It must have been quite challenging, I suppose, that period, I think, for all brands and businesses and stuff. But you obviously weathered the storm, so
saved by the internet.
I was about to say, did you pivot to D2C heavily at that point?
So it's kind of lucky. We launched actually originally in 2018 with a website, and we'd been testing. Was kind of intrigued by the idea of driving e-commerce sales and like building that channel. So we'd been testing it for quite a few months. So everything was up and running, and we were on Amazon already. We were 70% on trade as a business. So that's like bars, pubs, and restaurants. So 70% of our sales are coming from that area, and that obviously just kind of disappeared over the course of a week ahead of lockdown.
And you're like, fuck.
And then within a week, it was Amazon was the first to take off, and then our website followed. But within a week, we were doing more revenue through the e-commerce than we had been doing pre-COVID. So
it worked out.
It worked out. It worked out right.
That's mad. Do you think that was people at home not wanting to drink and just searching for non-alcoholic beers as a general search, or do you think it was people that maybe tried the brand? I mean, I guess you'll never really know, but how do you think people found you in that period?
I remember the thing of like what we were thinking as consumers at that time was, once you bought enough bog roll and pasta and whatever else, everyone was thinking, oh god, we're gonna be at home for a long time. Like, what are all of the experiences that we can replicate at home that we're no longer? So, people were like cooking, did amazing cooking. Everyone took up baking. But one of the things I think was, what are the brands that I drink or eat out of the home, and now I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna consume them at home, because we'd been, we were basically just a brand that really only existed in bars, pubs, and restaurants. And I think we were lucky in a way. The state we were 18 months old, so there were a few people who knew us. But we were also, so we were kind of, that we'd get that, we got pick up, and people sort of remembered us and thought, oh yeah, well let's get some lucky snake.
Give it a go.
But we also weren't so big that we couldn't fill the gap.
That's interesting. I've got a couple of questions because I'm conscious of time as well. Sure. So one of them is like, I guess, like non-alcoholic drinking habits. Is that my experience of it is that in cities it's been very embraced. So you go, London especially, and you go to Manchester, and you go, where it's struggled, and you probably be able to shed some light on this, is like when I've gone to perhaps like the Lake District, or like potentially, some smaller places seem to be less embracing of it. Perhaps might be that kind of, I don't want to insult anyone by saying small town mentality, but like, some certain places have maybe stuck in their ways. Do you notice from your like sales that the certain areas of the country, I mean, potentially even Newcastle is a place where everyone goes and gets shit-faced. I mean, are people up there embracing the sort of the non-alcoholics more than other places, or?
I'd probably put it in that certainly when we launched, our like strongest, maybe the epicenter of the best sales was East London.
Yeah.
And it literally, it builds out. So like if that's the epicenter, it was, and then it's London, and then it's the southeast, and then there's some like there are like I think like outposts like Margate and Brighton,
and then Brighton,
that are kind of have, I don't know, lots of people that either have moved from London or that they have a similar mindset.
Yeah.
And then definitely the further north you go, happens that I guess the alcohol-free movement is less advanced.
Interesting. That kind of makes sense.
And then it's definitely in a more urban, affluent phenomenon than it is a rural one.
Cool. I'm sure that's going to change as time goes on. You know, I think it's getting bigger and bigger. Let's talk about the pub.
Yeah, I was going to say the pub, baby.
I mean, that's a very, very cool accolade to have and to launch. But yeah, what brought that on? You know,
still can't believe managed to basically sort of like vicariously live out the, you know, every like everyone's dream is
pub landlord.
Yeah.
Amazing.
and managed to wrap it up in a sort of like something that would make sense for us as a business.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So
good job clearing the board on that one. I promise, guys, this is going to be great.
It's worth it. I promise.
The funny thing was that because we actually did it. When did we signed it? I guess signed it off like as a board in August 2022, and everything that year for pubs had been like horrendous news. Like utility bills had gone up like threefold, and
yeah, it was chaos.
It's like total chaos. They couldn't be a worse time. And every month that went by, I was like, oh god, what are they going to say? Like they're just never going to go it. And you know, we sort of like move the numbers around a bit, and like maybe it would look a bit better if we did it like this. And in the end, I remember asking, I did the sort of thing that I try and never do, which is like I just threw it out to like an open dealer and didn't give my opinion and just said, look, can I get everyone's view on it? Like here are all the facts. This is what it looks like now. Yeah. You know, the world's changed over the 12 months or whatever we've been kind of like looking at it and talking about it. And the really interesting thing about it was no one would put their hand up and say, no, I don't think you should do it.
Interesting.
They were all just like emotionally, they were like, come on, please do it.
That's great. And you did.
But yeah, it had been a long time coming. So it started as a search for an office, funnily enough.
Wow.
So in the end of 2020, so coming out of lockdown, we'd like long since got rid of the office in the ugly building in White City that we were in for pre-lockdown, and everyone wanted to get back together, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we like rented the room above a pub, and that was our office, and then that sort of snowballed. The idea of that then snowballed into, wouldn't it be cool if like we ran the pub as well, and then it just kept going until it became,
I love it,
office upstairs, brand home, going concern pub. Kind of.
I've actually sometimes walked past it and thought I'll just get a quick pint in there, and it's been so busy I can't get in. It's amazing. It's like it's just rammed.
It's
people love it.
There's literally, because we, as I say, we have the office upstairs. It's probably the coolest feeling I've had. I remember like the first like couple of weeks, we walked down on a Wednesday at like 5:00, and as you come down it's a 4-story building, and as you get closer to the ground floor, the noise gets louder and louder, and you open the door and it's like, fuck, there's
people are in our pub.
Yeah, and it's like it's noisy and atmospheric, and immediately I was sort of like enlightened as to why people are so obsessed about hospitality, and you know, like we just like love hospitality so much, and suddenly I could see why like people who work in hospitality, we obviously work with them a lot, but like suddenly it was like I can see why you get addicted to this.
Question as well, I'm just out of intrigue, what is your 0% versus alcoholic beverages ratio in your pub? Is it more zero than you would in a normal pub, or because obviously you serve normal alcohol?
Yeah, so we always wanted it to be, I guess, like representative of a normal pub.
Yeah.
So it's not
inclusive.
It's not an alcohol-free pub. Like let's create, a sort of modern-ish interpretation on the traditional pub. It's still like wood, and it's not all stainless steel bars and chrome chairs and that stuff. Yeah. So it's like traditional pub with full range of non-alcoholic, low alcohol, full strength drinks. We do 15% of our sales are alcohol free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is well above in general. I think I'm right in saying it, across the whole of the on-trade, 1% of beer sales are alcohol free.
Right.
So we're well
above it.
We're well above it. Which is cool. Obviously helped by the fact that it's called the Lucky Saint.
Yeah.
It's like the beacon, isn't it? I think it's really great on the website as well that you've got where you can type in and see where it's on draft. We've had quite a lot of people messages about it going.
So many people messaged us about that.
I wish there was a website where, it said where it was draft. And I was like, well, there's not like a general website, but I was like, your guys obviously have one for where you do your stock, which is great. So I think it's good for people to know. And I certainly would like to plan, if I'm going for like beers or something, it's nice knowing that there's a bar or something that's got it. And like even near where I live now, I'm like, oh, perfect. I know that pub's got it on draft, so we'll go there.
My friends will purposefully be like, let's go here because I know they've got Lucky Saint. Like they're so good to me about that. You curse me a little bit though, Luke. It's become my personality a little bit. It's like Jamie, the Lucky Saint guy.
Yeah, it's good.
There's a few good stories. Like we hear, there was a bar manager somewhere who said that there was a group of lads who were in, obviously like after work drinks. I think there were like 5 of them, and each time one person would come up and they'd order 4 Camden Hells or whatever, and 1 Lucky Saint for themselves, and then each of them individually did exactly the same thing.
Brilliant.
They were all coming out. They were all trying to drink order Lucky Saint for themselves.
That's so funny.
And
not
good.
Wanting to admit it to their mates. That's so good.
That's hilarious. That's really good.
So I hear you've got something quite exciting coming up that will be out by the time this episode launches.
We do. I feel like beginning of December, after I tell you what, I've been asked the question probably, if not daily, then definitely weekly for at least 3 years. Of like, is Lucky Saint always going to just be a lager? Are you going to launch a new product? Please, will you launch a new product? Anyway, the wait is now over. We're going to be launching our Hazy IPA beginning of December.
Can't wait to try that. It's going to be another thing that I will just be drinking forever.
Yeah, that's it. Just double the money. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Brilliant. I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of strange actually. This idea that we've sort of been so focused on one thing.
Yeah, it's actually rare. I was thinking about this with other brands, and most zero brands, I feel like there's an instant array. And we were actually talking about this the other day, weren't we? About one of the reasons we personally think you guys have been so successful was that dedication to making the beer and the brand the best. That focus. And I guess now that I'm sure you haven't conquered everything you wish to conquer, but maybe now feels like the right time to launch a new product.
Yeah, it does. I think that's it. It was like, lager will still always be like number one. It'll still, but the clamour from consumers and customers, like it got too irresistible, and yeah, we've managed to produce a product that we're like unbelievably proud of, and yeah, it's good to see Orange entering the Lucky Saint brand.
Yeah, nice.
Orange, very nice.
Cool. Well, very much look forward to trying it. And cool. Well, I think, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much.
It's been great, and having a bit of insight into the inception of the brand and everything around it, and answered a few questions as well that we've had.
We loved it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Pleasure.